Hi everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to this webinar. My name is Fernando Gonzalez and I am the Marketing Director at Bellatrix Software. Let me do just a quick introduction to Bellatrix. We are a software product creation company based in South America, and we have development centers in Peru and Argentina. I am very excited about today's topic, and I guess if you are here, you're very excited too. We're going to talk about wearables. It's just a tech fashion or a real revolution. What do you think? Here with me is Nikolas Manuelides, Bellatrix mobile expert and technology freak. Hi, Nikolas.
Hello, everyone.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Well, my name is Nikolas Manuelides. I'm part of the mobile lab here at Bellatrix. And technology is one of my hobbies, actually, particularly mobile phones. I love mobile phones. And I always like to be aware of the latest news in the mobile world. So that's pretty much why I decided to give this webinar.
Perfect. Let's get down to business. What are wearable devices?
Wearable devices are electronic technologies or computers that are incorporated into items of clothing and accessories which can be comfortably worn on the body. These wearable devices can perform many of the same computing tasks as mobile phones and laptop computers do, and even add more functionality, making use of different kinds of sensors that are not usually present in smartphones, like pedometers and heart rate monitors. Wearables come in a wide variety of shapes, from a pair of glasses, watches, and fitbands to even actual pieces of clothing like smart shirts that can measure your vitals, or smart tennis shoes to track your fitness activities.
So there's a wide range of devices that can be considered wearables, right? But where do they started? What's the history behind wearable?
And wearable history can go as far back as 16th century, where Chinese had an abacus ring. But more modern wearables started in 1960s. With a computerized timing device to help people cheat at the game of roulette, created mathematicians Edward Othorp and Claude Shannon. Then we had the calculator wristwatch in 1975, which makes me remember when I was a little kid back in the 90s, there was a universal remote control wristwatch, and if you had that in the school, you were like the coolest kid of all. And I remember we used to play with it with a friend and messing around with all the TVs with that wristwatch. Then in 1987, we had the hearing aids and Bluetooth sets in 2001. And in 2007, James Park and Eric Fryman founded Fitbit, an activity tracker, wireless-enabled wearable device that measures data such as the number of steps walked, quality of sleep, and other personal metrics. But it wasn't until 2012 that we saw the first smartwatch as we know them today, the Pebble smartwatch. Created up from a Kickstarter project that only asked for $100,000 and ended up gathering more than $10 million, telling us how important wearables are for consumers, at least. It featured a black and white e-paper display, a vibrating motor, a magnometer, and ambient light sensors, and an accelerometer, enabling its use and an activity tracker too. But most importantly, the Pebble was compatible with both Android and iOS devices, something that is still not very common today. Well, after Steve Jobs' death, many of us thought it was going to take a long while till someone came up with something really unexpected and revolutionary. But luckily, we had Google. And in 2013, they introduced a unique wearable device named Google Glass, a set of glasses with an optical head-mounted display. Google Glass displays information in a smartphone and hands-free format. Wearers communicate with the internet via natural language voice commands. Google started selling Google Glass to qualified glass explorers who were tech journalists and bloggers and influential people in the tech world in general. This was in the US only on April 15 last year, and for a limited period, the price was $1,500. But this year, on May 15, they made it more open beta and allow everyone to buy the pair of glasses.
Great, perfect. But why don't you share with us what's happening in the market right now?
Well, 2014 is a real special year for wearables. It was declared the year of wearables by many tech journalists and bloggers, and no one could really disagree with that. March 18 was the day Google announced its wearable specifically designed operating system based on Android. They call it Android Wear, and the revolution started from there. Once a big company as Google saw future in wearables, it sort of everyone else did, and OEMs started to create new devices running this new version of Android to supply people's hunger for smartwatches. Many companies had their attempts at smartwatches prior to the announcement of Android Wear, with moderate to non-success, but after it, two companies came ahead. The one that drew all attention was Motorola, with the presentation of its Moto 360, the first smartwatch with a rounded display, which was not only rounded but sported a metal body and leather wristbands. With a highly fashionable design that made realize everyone that smartwatches were not only a technological gadget but also a fashion statement. But to be able to fit the rounded display in such a thin body, because it has almost no bezels, as you can see in the picture, Motorola had to sacrifice a small portion of the display in order to fit all the connections there. You can see in the picture at the bottom there's a black portion of this display. It's just for allowing all the connections to go through there. So it looks a little bit weird. I'm not sure yet if I'm comfortable with it or not, if it bothers me or not. And this is where LG came into play and presented the first fully rounded display in a smartwatch, but of course with bigger bezels. The LG G Watch R, by a big name, it's really beautiful. And it's going for a more classical wristwatch style. It has a bigger battery and an OLED display that promises even better battery life. And of course, better outdoor visibility too. Others like Samsung opted for its own OS called Tizen, which success is yet to be seen. Personally, I wouldn't expect much from it since the quality and popularity of Android is too hard to beat, and in the past, previous attempts of releasing Tizen for smartphones haven't been so successful. And there, of course, there's Apple, and the one trend maker company has not been up to the expectations lately, probably since Steve's death. And in their latest keynote on September 9, Tim Cook announced the iWatch. But sadly, that was it, since the highly anticipated smartwatch is not going to be released until spring 2015. Despite Apple's fans' enthusiasm, the iWatch was a little bit disappointing. Don't get me wrong, in paper it's a really nice smartwatch and one of the most beautiful ones in my opinion. But one was used to be more amazed when Apple launched a new device, and this was not the case. It's just another follower. It has a pressure-sensitive touchscreen that can distinguish between a tap and a press, and a dial called a digital crown, which can be turned to scroll or zoom, and press to return to the home screen. The watch also has a button for displaying a list of contacts, and it comes in two sizes, 1.5 and 1.7 inches, and over 30 design styles, which is something new since we were used to have one or two flavors tops when it comes to Apple devices. The iWatch will be compatible with iPhone 5 and above, and of course, as long as they are running iOS 8.
Okay, great overview, Nicolas. But in your opinion, why are wearables such an important thing? I mean, why is it a hot topic?
Yeah, but that's probably the most important question of this webinar. As I said before, if Apple and Google think it's important enough not only to make a smartwatch but to come out with a specifically designed OS, it should at least be a hint for the rest of us. But that's not the only reason. Let me show you some numbers. Forrester recently surveyed 2,000 technology decision makers about the importance of having wearable strategies in place over the next 12 months. And more than half of the respondents reported that wearables were a priority, with 32% saying they are a critical or high priority. Other studies, like the one run by Juniper Research, expect more than 130 million smart wearable devices to be shipped in 2018, making retail revenue from wearable technology jump from about $1.4 billion in 2013 to as much as $19 billion in 2018. And remember, this is not only smartwatches, but all sorts of wearable devices. Smartwatches, Fitbands, medical wearables. And well, speaking of medical wearables, according to a market report published by Transparency Market Research, the global market for wearable medical devices like heart rate monitors, pulse oximeters, glucose and insulin management was valued at $2 billion in 2012 and is expected to reach a value of $5.8 billion by 2019. So as we can see, when it comes to wearables, numbers are huge and it all goes up.
So that means that wearables isn't just a fashion or a trend. And
Yeah.
I mean, many companies are developing their own user and technology, right? But what do you think how do you think it's going to impact in the workplace? I mean, specifically business apps or wearable technologies.
Well, wearables in the workplace are clearly time savers since they are less distracting than a smartphone. But the effect is broader than that. Is as they will seriously can generate productivity and profit gains over the next few years. This past summer, Salesforce.com rolled out Salesforce Wear, an app development platform containing references, apps, demos, open source code, and other documentation that can be used to develop apps for 11 wearable devices, including Google Glass, the Pebble smartwatch, and the Mio motion detecting armband from Family Labs, and connect the apps to the company's Salesforce One mobile app platform. Wearable business apps and the Internet of Things technologies were all big trends at the company's Dreamforce 2014 in San Francisco. And this is also a clear indicator of how important it is to have a wearable strategy.
Right, so definitely everyone should be looking at this technology and what benefits can be derived from this to their companies.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But let's get more to the point of developing apps for wearable devices, right? So is it just the same as creating any mobile app?
And basically, it is. It is the same, but there are some things to take into consideration that are really important. Developers will have a difficult task given that wearables on the market run on different platforms. This is also the case for smartphones. So they'll have to tackle to iOS, Android Wear, Tizen, and probably Windows Phone too. And there's also the getting used to these new APIs. Even though you may know how to program in Android or iOS, you have to familiarize with the APIs provided by each company in order to get the most out of them. One of the biggest challenges, I think, is to think outside the box. In this case, outside the smartphone. Wearables have a huge potential, but they have to break away from being just a smartphone complement, aiming at things that only they can do. As an example, we can name All the Cooks, a Google Glass app that allows you to read recipe instructions at eye level while you're cooking, so you don't have to touch your smartphone or any gadget with your hands dirty. Then there's also battery life, that is of vital importance since this is one of the weakest points of wearables, especially smartwatches. People are not used to charge their watches, or running out of battery is not a concern usually. So the problem is that today's technology only manages to give us 1 to 2 days of use. So when developing an app, it's crucial to pay attention to its use of resources. And last but not least, another aspect that will probably one of the most important ones to the app success is the user experience. Smartwatches have very small screens and almost no buttons, so making the use of space, navigation, and user interaction is incredibly important. Using gestures and knowing what to show and how to show it are key for a successful app.
Okay, perfect. So I know that you have you brought some examples of successful apps, but just before that, let me remind to the audience that if you have some questions, you can send them to in the box located to the right of your screen. So we'll try to answer them in the last part of the webinar. So going back to the content, you were going to show some successful business apps, right?
Yeah, we there's already a couple of business apps, and we picked 4 to show you. Let me show you. We picked this one. It's called Shift Expert from Click Software. The Shift Expert app works on wearable devices so that employees click in and out of shifts and add that data to timesheets. Employees can quickly view their shifts, request to trade the shifts, and view overtime from a smartwatch. And managers can schedule shift trades, approve vacations and sick time, and track timesheets from the app. Then we have another example, and this is my favorite. I think this is the coolest one. The Proximity Insight app connects with in-store eye beacons to make the retail experience more efficient and personal. Ideally, Proximity Insight works in conjunction with the store's website and mobile app like this. A shopper receives a mobile notification via the store app based on items he's viewed. The shopper later enters the store, and a salesperson is alerted to her presence via iBeacon on his smartwatch or smart glasses, and can access CRM data to better aid the consumer. So it's kind of cool that the salespersons already know what you're going to ask before you ask.
So you enter when you enter the store, they will already know.
They know you are entering, and they know what you want. So
wow.
It's kind of cool. Then we have APX Labs Skylight. Through a mix of Skylight platform, Salesforce Wear, and smart glasses makers, the APX Lab apps enable workers such as telecom service technicians or utility workers to view augmented reality overlay information, such as directions or instructions on how to fix equipment in real time, and quickly log a case in the Salesforce Service Cloud database via smart glasses. And the last one is Wearable Labs NTHD. Wearable Labs want to make ID access cards obsolete with its identity access management application. NTHD integrates with Bionic NIME identity authentication response to give employees and visitors secure and easy access to office buildings, eliminating the need for ID cards or key fobs. The NIME uses a person's cardiac rhythm to verify identity, which is about as unique as it gets and really, really cool.
Yeah, those are great examples. And we're getting to the last part of the webinar here. So I would love to hear, Nikolas, in your opinion, what should someone trying to enter the wearable world need to have into consideration?
I think there's 2 important things to take into consideration. The first one is to make a decision ASAP, whether you'll join or not Wearable Revolution, since the 4 ones to do it will be the ones that come ahead. And another important thing is related to the app development itself. The user experience is of vital importance. Working in a closer collaboration with a UI designer is of more relevance than in smartphone apps, since the interactive area is very reduced in a smartwatch or any wearables. It'll be easier for users to get frustrated if the app doesn't respond in an intuitive way. So user experience is going to be really important.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I think that it's wonderful, all the content that you've shared today. And as we have only 5 minutes to get to the top time, let's jump right to the questions. We're getting a few questions here. So first one says, are there any Microsoft examples of wearable technology?
Yes, in fact there is. Just a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft released a Fitband, but there was nothing special about it. The design looks like it is still a prototype, and it doesn't bring anything new to the table. Besides besides that, Microsoft haven't said much about wearables lately. No teasers, no press conferences, almost anything. We haven't heard from them. So that's why they will kind of exclude it of this webinar. But I know there's a smartwatch in the works that should be announced soon.
Okay, perfect. Next question, and I think this one relates to your favorite example, right?
Yeah.
This one says, can you explain a bit more about iBeacons?
Yeah, iBeacons are really cool. iBeacons are indoor positioning systems. Apple calls them a new class of low-power, low-cost transmitters that can notify nearby iOS 7 or above devices to their presence. This technology enables a smartphone or other devices to perform actions when in close proximity to an iBeacon, like the example we show when the user enters the retail store, the salesperson is notifying her smartwatch or smartphone of the use of the customer presence.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, iBeacons is a technology that, in my opinion, is going to be disruptive, completely disruptive.
Yeah, it's something really new.
Okay, let's jump to the next question. And this one says, besides the big players that you named, are there any other companies doing something on wearables?
Yeah, there is. We have, for example, Asus who released a smartwatch, which is as of right now the cheaper one. That doesn't mean by any means that it's the worst one. In fact, they managed to make a smartwatch that only costs $200, and it has everything the rest have. It's on pair with Moto 360 and LG G Watch R, and it is quite stylish too. So the competency is tough. Everyone's fighting for a piece of the cake. So yeah, I think we will see more companies showing in this in the near future.
Okay, perfect. Here's another one. This one says, you mentioned Google Glass. What happened with that technology?
Yeah, this sort of surprised me a little too, or maybe disappointed me, but it was understandable. Since the announce of Android Wear, it sort of Google realized the importance of smartwatches in particular. So they put on hold the Google Glass project to give more start time to Android Wear. And I think that's the reason we haven't heard much lately from Google Glasses, because the star now is Android Wear, and that's what they are focusing right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and last question for today. Here's someone asking about Jawbone. I think that's the way you pronounce it. UP3 heart rate monitors. Are you aware of that technology?
Yeah, it's a Fitband. Well, it's another side of the market of wearables. Right now, the biggest one are Fitbands, and smartwatch are the one that are like starting to come now. And of course, Jawbone is one of the toughest competitors, and with Fitbit and Garmin also has its own. So it's like two fronts of battle. We have for in one side we have the Fitband's wearables, and with companies that are probably not that I don't know how to put it. They are not that big
that
or
massive, right?
Don't as others like Motorola and LG, but they're still releasing really great products like Jawbone. And then we have the smartwatches that are starting right now.
So I think that healthcare is a great market for wearable technology, right?
Yes, we saw the numbers in medical wearables are getting huge, and it's really good because I think it offers a good functionality and something good for people who needs it, like insulin dependent people. This sort of thing.
Perfect, great. We've reached the top time for today. Thanks everyone for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed this session. And if you're interested in learning more about wearables or you'd like more information on some of our services, please contact us. We'll share a link to the slides and the recording shortly. So again, thanks everyone for joining and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you everyone. Goodbye.